Well, Kawasaki has dusted off the vaunted H2 moniker for this brand new superbike that we're going to see a road version of very soon. It's a pretty awesome piece of equipment, but awesome doesn't even come close to talking about this bike. It's a 72 H2 based racer. Now, Mike McSween has owned this bike since new, brought it over from Japan, currently rides this thing on track days and absolutely amazes the youngsters. Mike, tell me a little bit about this bike.
Well, this original 1972 H2, I bought it in Japan, coming back from Vietnam in 1972. I brought it back on the USS Constellation. I paid $1,000 for it in a crate and had it delivered to San Diego, where I brought it to Fort Pierce, where Jimmy Purnell of Hess Fast Racing in Fort Pierce turned it into a monster. It's 130 horsepower, two-stroke horsepower. I used to race it down in Moroso back in the day. What I like to do now is I like to let young people look at history. This is a three-cylinder, two-stroke, 130 horsepower, 5-speed. It's the real deal, and I like to let young people look at history.
So what's this thing like to ride? What are the sensations? What does it feel like?
It's unbelievable. It's not fun to ride, but it's very exciting. When I get off of it, I'm shaking. You have to be very respectable of this bike, because all the two-stroke guys know the power band on this bike is about 6,200 RPMs. And at that RPMs, the bike comes to life, and it will literally throw you off of it if you're not hanging on to it. It'll bring the front tire off the ground going into 5th gear. The problems back in the day is the frames weren't too good. It used to flex a lot. This bike, Jimmy Purnell, has braced it up where now, instead of out dragging anybody down the straightaway and cruising through the corners, it just goes. The only problem is it won't pass a gas station. It just won't. It's like flushing the toilet when you're on the pipes.
Now the H2s, the street bikes, are even relatively rare now. This is even rarer still.
Yeah.
How is it getting parts and any kind of support for the thing?
Well, I do have to say, if it wasn't for eBay, this bike wouldn't be sitting here, because as a matter of fact, when I got this bike back, I went down to the local Kawasaki store and talked to one of the young guys in the parts department about getting the cover for it. And I told him I want a cover for it H2. He says, no, you got to go see Yamaha. We don't make them. I said, okay, that's good by me. So what I like to do is let young people just have a look-see, because you just don't see them anymore.
So you said earlier that occasionally you be at like Barber at the Vintage Festival, you'll fire this thing up. What kind of crowd does that gather?
It gathers a big crowd. And I usually tell people, small kids, don't let them get behind it. I tell people it's like a chainsaw on steroids, or maybe on heroin. It'll get your attention.
Well, I've ridden the stock H2, and I've ridden some H2s with some modifications, and that bike is a handful. It's a lot of fun to ride, and I have to tell you, knowing that and knowing what this bike is, I got to hand it to you, man. You got a set.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. Let's hear it for the old H2s, the real ones.
There you go. All right.